This is Greg McLaughlin of the Rebel Base Card Podcast, and you are listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast with Ian Taylor and Norrin Rad. Enjoy collecting.
Hello, everybody, and my name is Norrin Rad, and you are listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, your weekly digest of hobby goodness, brought to you by the Marvel Cards Fan Collective, an awesome community of card collectors and creators. You can find our two groups on Facebook, details at the end of this podcast, so come check us out. With me, as always, is my co-pilot in all things Marvel cards. His mind is a labyrinth of Marvel card mania. And at the center of that are the secrets to my universe. With me, as always, Ian Taylor.
Marvel Cards Mania. There's a podcast.
There you go.
We're going to change the name.
Boom.
Let's change the name.
We're changing it right now. I'm going to all our Facebook groups.
Cock-a-doodle-doo. Let's do it. We'll have to think of a new acronym. Because acronyms.
Cock-a-doodle-doo. I love it.
Oh, dear. How you doing, buddy?
Good, buddy. Good. How you holding up?
I'm all right. The force is strong with me this week because of our intro from Greg McLaughlin of the Rebel Base Card Podcast.
Best buddy.
And I love Greg. Greg had a summer
Greg.
He had a summer off. He was kind of doing an offshoot of his podcast called The Bad Batch for Breakfast, which is something to do with the Bad Batch animated Star Wars show.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, so he was kind of doing,
good.
Yeah, I've not animated Star Wars. I've never gone near. I mean, I've just not done any of it at all.
I like Bad Batch. Vision is what you have to watch. You have to watch Visions.
Star Wars Visions.
My God.
I've seen
oh my God.
Plus, yeah, I'll give it a go. But Greg recently released his third podcast in about 3 months. On his main feed, where he was talking about all the stuff that he was doing over the summer, and of course he went to some cons because cons have started up again. So he went to Anime West Midwest. He went to the Chicago Sports Spectacular. He went to the National. He went to Scarif Con, I believe it's called, which is literally in an alleyway where Alley Cat Comics are, which I think somewhere in Chicago, I think, where Greg's based. Anyway. I wanted to do Greg because the random thing about listening to Greg's podcast is that he does intros like we do, but he doesn't just put them at the beginning. He puts them randomly throughout the episode as bumpers between segments, which is really cool. So you'll be listening to the podcast, and all of a sudden I'll hear myself and you. And sometimes it really throws me because I forget that we did it.
I love it.
So it's the first episode
adorable.
of Greg's podcast that we've listened. I've listened to in months because he's been doing the Bad Batch. I don't watch it. I haven't listened to that, and it's more about the show rather than the cards. Yada yada yada. Yeah. So he's done this kind of catch up, return episode, and I'm listening to it, and I'm kind of getting into it and listening to him interviewing people and all this sort of stuff, and then all of a sudden there's you, and I'm like, what's going on? And all of a sudden there's me, and I'm like,
I'm in your head.
Sit down for a minute. You're always in my head, dear. So yeah, you're like the Mind Stone to my Vision's forehead. Thought,
whoa, that was good.
That was it was a reach.
Forehead is what you said, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Okay, just making sure.
Anyway, so Greg, go check Greg out. He's at Rebel Base Card, I believe. I'm on his website, but for the life of me, I can't find his.
Yeah, he's on Rebel Base Card, right? That's his thing.
He's at Rebel Base Card. Anyway, you'll find him. Just Google Rebel Base Card. He's everywhere. RebelBaseCard.com, and he's on all your Instagram feeds. And he's actually started doing some pretty cool Star Wars trading cards, like promoting his.
Oh my gosh, it looks so cool! I'm so jealous.
Good. I really want some of those. So, Greg,
I have to do something.
Seriously, yeah, we've got to do some cards.
I know.
Now, for those who have been keeping an eye, we have a trial print of some T-shirts that's happening, but only at Comic-Con, I believe it is. Is it new?
At Philly.
Sorry, Philly non-sport
Philly Card Show.
Yeah, that's it. The Matt Fuller, who was a guest on episode.
It was episode 90, Ian, which featured the delightful Matt Fuller. What a hunk.
Will be taking some along as a kind of a test run.
Yes.
Depending on how those go, we'll look into kind of spooling that up, and we're just testing the quality and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're just looking at it. I mean, he sent you pics already, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They look great.
Not of the actual finished ones. He sent me.
Okay. So he has to send you a pic. So like it was this morning. So I'm sure he'll send it to you this afternoon. I know he gets busy.
Oh, exciting.
Right after like 6 a.m. I don't know why I was awake, but he did send me pictures. They looked really great. So I'm excited. He did that on his own fruition. He's the best. He's just such a great guy.
Awesome.
And I'm excited, man. My wife keeps telling me that I should drive to Philly and go over there for the show. But it's like 8 hours.
Yeah. Okay. I could fly to America in that time.
See, let's just do that.
Not until next month, because they've only just announced that vaccinated folk can fly to the US, but it's only from November, I think.
Oh, God.
Yeah, because the borders were closed.
That's scary. I am not going to be on a plane anytime soon.
I am next year because I'm coming over.
That's right.
So if all goes well.
Party.
Anyway, so Greg, go and check him out. I've been so I was musing the other day, as one does, because I know we're both busy and we both get up to stuff, but the one thing that's constant at the moment is there's a lot of noise about Marvel cards. I think you'll be fair to say. There's a lot of talk about them. There's a lot of kind of the hobby talking about the hobby, which is a bit meta and a bit weird. So I'm not sure how much of that noise is actually people who are already in the hobby or how much of that is new people. I think there's some new people because I'm seeing new names popping up. People who were on the sports side who are coming in. There's one guy on who I've seen a couple of times on Instagram. Marvel Cards Up is his name, I think. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, Brian. He's awesome.
He seems like a really nice guy, but he comes from the sports background. But you posted a little video where he was just talking into camera and just like having a bit of needed to get something off his brain to everyone. And I thought he spoke a lot of sense. So can we please get him on the show?
Yeah, we could totally get Brian.
Because I don't know him that well, but I think you've done some content with him. So
yeah.
Let's get him on. Anyway, and so there's a lot of people talking, and I can't remember where I heard it, but someone mentioned the phrase, "What's the entry point?" So if you're coming into Marvel cards now, where do you come into it? What is the entry point? And there's a number of ways you can interpret what's the entry point as a question, as a phrase, as a possibly a rallying cry. I don't know. You could look at it in terms of financial.
Yep.
You could look at it in terms of, are you a kid coming up? You want to get into it because it sure as hell isn't the same as when we were kids. Or you could look at it if you're coming from another area of collecting cards and coming into non-sports for the first time, or if you're in non-sports and you're coming into Marvel for the first time. And I want to start on the most obvious one, I guess, of those, which is the price point one. Because I know we did a 2 years back now, we did Cards 101 where we talked about if you're...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was great. That was fun.
And seriously, anyone who's kind of listening now who hasn't, do go and check out our back catalogue stuff because some of it is actually pretty good, if I do say so myself. And when we did those, the hobby was so different to how it is now. I'm not sure what that episode would be like if we did it now. Maybe
I have no idea. It'd be
Cards 101 Part 3. Who knows? But I'm not. Again, I probably need to re-listen to that episode. I think a lot of the advice that we gave in that episode would hold up. But let's start with the financial one. So, if you're coming into the hobby and you're wanting to start now, regardless of where you choose to go, I guess the biggest thing is, okay, what can I afford to buy?
Yep.
And we touched on this at the end of the last episode. So I wanted to start here because it's still fresh in my head. Is the price point on Spider-Man X-Men Metal Universe that we're seeing so far on pre-order. So now rewind a bit to X-Men Metal Universe, and I believe the pre-orders for that started just north of the $100 mark. I can't remember the exact number, which for a box, relative to some of the prices you see for the Star Wars product coming out, which tends to be around 90, 120, 150, getting up there in the 170. Masterworks is something different, obviously, but
yes.
Most of the Star Wars stuff tends to hover around the mid hundreds, I guess, for a box.
This is true.
Yeah. And so X-Men Metal Universe went on pre-sale at that, but very quickly, because of the distribution model, it was going on sale and off sale, on sale and off sale. It was being pulsed out, and each time it was going up in price before it was released.
Yep.
Spider-Man Metal Universe, the first pre-order price we saw was, off the top of my head, it was 200 and something. It was mid 200s, I think. Next time, and that sold out. And then the next time we've seen it is from another distributor, and it's 400 plus. Now, bearing in mind, this set's not out for 2.5, 3 months yet.
Yep.
And I'm like, if you're new to the hobby, or if you're not new to the hobby, you'll be looking at it thinking,
something's wrong here.
Yeah, that's a bit spicy. And, I love Spider-Man as much as the next guy. And there's a lot of next guys and girls and non-binary and prefer to self-describe who also love Spider-Man, which I get. And there's a Spider-Man movie coming out, which I get. But at some point, are you taking the...
I think most people, look, I think what's happening right now is that I think, these third-party people who put it up for the $400 or whatever, trying to take advantage of people, FOMO, fear of missing out. They're trying to desperately, sell these as high as possible because they understand that people are looking to buy and get to them. And I think we're seeing that for multiple reasons in terms of like entry point, right? Marvel cards are not that easy to get. I think people tend to confuse the hobby because it's small, that a lot of things are available, but they're not really available, if that makes sense.
In terms of primary source to buy new.
Yes. Or even getting cards, you and I know this, right? There are certain things you just can't find in Marvel cards, sets, inserts. It's tough to put these things together. And I think what happened is that people realize that people are speculating on Spider-Man metal. So they want to go very high, very quickly and buy a large volume because, like Ian was just mentioning, a lot of them are coming from a background from a hobby standpoint where they are spending 10x or 5x what they're actually spending. When they look at Marvel, they can buy it for under 1x from what they were buying from previously. So it's kind of like a perspective thing. So in terms of entry point, do I think new product is the way to go right now? No, but here's a glimmer of hope and something to think about.
Oh, please.
The physical boxes that are being sold right now at $400 and all that stupid money, let that go. Let people crack them because they're only going to be hunting for the hits and all the other cards are going to be very cheap. We've seen that with X-Men Metal. And I promise you this, once you see them go from the box to people opening them to e-pack, and then a week later, go to compsy.com, buy your cards on the cheap once everyone's got their achievements. And if you want to crack a box or open a pack, because that's your thing, I would wait for e-pack at this point. I don't know if Spider-Man doesn't go down from the 350 and up marker, there's no reason for you to buy it physically. Because it's going to be disappointing for you unless you're very lucky and you hit something big. That's just the truth. You're not going to enjoy the experience. And I'm saying that because, and I hate to say that because I don't want to make anyone sad about missing out on an opportunity of participating when this stuff drops, because you see everyone opening it on channels and you're like, oh man, I wish I was doing it. Wah, wah, wah. Trust me on this. You're not going to have fun opening a box at $350 to $400 and not being able to collect the full set, full insert set. You're still going to have to hunt things down, and it's going to be a pain for you. So if it is an entry point, if that is something you're coming into and you're kind of like the collector I'm talking about, trust me on this, those cards are going to hit eBay. Wait a little bit. You're going to get them cheaper than what you're paying for a box. Absolutely. And, I hate to take away money from Upper Deck like that, but they've put us, it's like baby in a corner type of thing. You know what I mean? If boxes are that expensive, the only way they're going to lower is people don't buy them. But the problem I have with that advice is that it's garbage because it's not true.
Because also people can't help themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And, cards unfortunately have a bad kind of relationship to gambling when it's opening packs and stuff.
Yeah.
So, a big thing of what this episode is doing when we're talking like entry points is like, hey, we know you want this. Here's some things we've experienced in the past where, hey, you can still get it. You're just waiting a couple of months and you're going to get it for a price point where it's never going to go lower than what you bought it for.
Yeah. So I guess my takeaway from that is your entry point doesn't have to be sealed product.
Exactly. Modern sealed product, right?
Yes. Or even in some cases.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, some vintage stuff has gotten kind of crazy.
Careful of the word vintage.
Oh, you're right. Golden.
Golden,
not vintage.
At this stage.
It's silver.
So that's hilarious.
That's great.
But partly because if you're buying to open and you're buying that stuff that's not modern. And when I say not modern, I'm kind of talking obviously current stuff. And I'd actually say Rittenhouse stuff is probably safe from this as well. So if you're going anywhere before 2000, you've got to seriously consider whether or not it will actually be viable to open it. And some sets are different. But a lot of those old card, the stock and the way they were printed and the gloss that was used and the finish on them, they haven't survived that well, being in very, very close physical I mean, listen, if I was in a packet with you for 20 years, you damn well I'd stick to you when you prized us apart. So,
it wouldn't take 20 years.
I'm on so we might have to raise the rating on this card from clean.
Yeah, that's just kind of a little weird.
Yeah, that is a bit weird.
No, but it's true. They a lot of these cards do have gloss on them. So there are certain sets you have to be aware of, like 92 Some of them, they stick. I saw someone open a couple packs recently, Spider Jew 09, who's very nice. We have to get him on the show too. There's a bunch of people we need to get on the show. Justin, there's a bunch of people we need to bring up.
But you've been on his show all the time. He hasn't asked me.
Yeah.
Still waiting for me invite.
He hasn't asked you yet?
No. Wow. No one asked me.
No, don't say that.
No.
They mention you though. Get out of here. You're so full of it. I was like, but I saw him open up some 92 stuff and it didn't stick. But speaking to Amanda too, right? The general knowledge is that certain cards are very glossy and they do stick to each other. And they stick to each other because of this. People stack boxes on top of each other and it's not a cool place. So the heat and the pressure, humidity and that stuff and the pressure of those cards. And when you peel them up, you get a bunch of white dots. I don't really think it's smart to buy a box for $300-$400 or even $200 or even $100 or $10 to have all the cards stick to each other at that stage. I just don't think it's
unless you're a sealed box collector.
See, now that makes more sense to me. If I was buying these, I would keep them sealed. Yeah.
I mean, I opened, it wasn't a box, but I bought a load of Marvel Silver Age packs off eBay last year. And, or I didn't get a sketch, or even an auto. But the majority,
from the packs, right?
The majority, So I bought them knowing that I probably wouldn't because they're leftovers. I bought some boxes and done the thing where you open them.
The trick thing or whatever.
And I opened them, and I would say about over half were sticking and had white spots on. So. Now the thing is with that, and I'm about to do this, I've got loads of just odds and ends of cards, and I'm in the UK, so it's a slightly different mindset and ethos. Marvel trading cards aren't really a thing for kids and young people and stuff like that. And I'm not even sure how much that is true in America these days. But in America, at least you have baseball cards and stuff like that. That's much more, so the concept of collecting cards is very much out there. But I'm probably going to give a lot of my stuff, like the base cards and the odds and sods, just to some I'm going to randomly go out in the world and find a young kid and give him some cards, which sounds really, really creepy. But I actually did look into this. So this is slightly going on a tangent, but it ties back to the entry point thing in terms of how young people can get into cards.
Yeah.
Because it occurred to me, and I was thinking about this last year, actually, and I did look it up. And even before COVID, a lot of the places you'd think, oh, yeah, I'll give them to a children's hospital or something like that. Well, they won't take used stuff because a lot of the kids are immunocompromised. Because they're having treatment for cancer, and they're in like plastic sheeted like rooms and areas because they're pretty crook. So much as I'm sure they'd love a load of cards to sort through and look at and read all stats on the back, from anonymous donor or Uncle Ian or however you want to do it, you simply can't do it. But it got me thinking about entry points in terms of kids. What is the next generation of Marvel card collectors? And if you don't, asked me that question 2 years ago, we were still scratching with that. In the evidence of the last 6 months, the next generation of Marvel card collectors are people who were sports collectors. Potentially, that is.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not a next generation in terms of like younger. It's a next generation in terms of people who have much deeper pockets in many cases.
True.
They're used to paying more money because, for the price points I mentioned earlier on for some of the Star Wars boxes that's very much the bottom end of the value scale for sports cards. Some boxes of sports cards go 500, 600, 700 at least is kind of the norm you'd expect to pay.
Yeah.
Go into it. So, Marvel cards are relative to cards in general, and certainly compared to sports cards, pretty cheap if you're coming from that angle.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, comparatively, yeah.
But what if you're little, you're Jimmy Jones, you're 9.
Jimmy Jones.
We're going to go with Jimmy Jones here. And I've got in my head, I've got an image of a wholesome American kid, kind of mouse around, ginger hair, freckles.
Yikes.
Kind of like the guy on the front cover of Mad Magazine, Alfred E. Newman.
I mean, that's a face. That's a face. Can't
so, little Jimmy Jones wants to get into Marvel cards. He's 9. He can't afford $400. Now, to be fair,
that's his fault. He should pick himself up by the bootstraps and go get a job. Sorry, that's the American in me. Let me cut that back a little bit. Sorry.
Get out there. Get up chimneys. Get down pits.
Come on, buddy. Peel it back.
But interestingly, for a lot of those sports products, they have smaller versions of their products. They have.
So does Star Wars, though. Like that's the thing that it's.
And they're out there and they're in there.
They're out there.
Last year, I really dug seeing the Walmart mystery boxes out.
The mystery boxes popped up everywhere.
It was a really cool price tag.
Great idea.
Seasoned. I'm going to say seasoned, and with my fingers in there. Marvel collectors were in two camps. They either really dug them, or they're a waste of time. Well, yeah. Maybe they are, because you're not seeing the value in the fact that you can open a pack of something you've never seen, and it might be to you a worthless base card for little Jimmy Jones, age 9 from Bootstrap, Missouri. He's probably really digging those, and he's probably still sitting there looking at them every now and again, and just something.
Just like we all did back in the day.
Yeah, so it's kind of that kind of thing, and I don't see that happening as much anymore, which is why, my mind still goes back to, okay, apart from parents opening them with their kids, and some of them do, which is great, but not all card collectors have got kids.
This is true. This is true. I have to rent mine.
You have to
some
rent
Yahoo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So little Jimmy Jones can come and live with you until it's time for him to be handed on to someone else. Maybe that's
he can't live here. That's crazy. I keep him out back.
No, you keep him in the outhouse. In the outhouse. But little Jimmy Jones getting a short shrift here. But he has got a Walmart mystery box. But what's he buy next? And you know what the thing is? What he might do? I'm just thinking of little Jimmy Jones's path through life. He might then go into sports cards.
Well, why, Jimmy?
But because he can't afford Marvel. But when he's finished college, and he discovers girls or boys or whatever he's into, and when he finally starts to get to his late 20s, early 30s, disposable income, who knows if physical cards will still be being made? Because we're 20 years in the future by now.
Oh God, barf.
It could all be on the app. They might not be making them, but even if they are, I reckon $400 will be considered like pocket change at that point. It's going to be $1,500 a box, easy for a box of physical. By then he can afford it. Because, he's now, he had the choice of med school or law school. Unfortunately, he chose path C and he became a circus clown, but he learned magic and he was on several Vegas specials. Jimmy. By the time he was 26, he had $1 billion to his name and 120 million Instagram followers. So he's done all right for himself. So now he can afford stuff. But what if Jimmy Jones's friend, Wally Wilkinson, who didn't have such a good path in life and can't afford it, what does he collect? I've gone off on a tangent.
How many kids are you going to go after? You're about to invent like a whole classroom of children.
I
hunting down Marvel cards.
I've got two. I've got Jimmy
I was saving you from the third, if I can be honest.
Thank you very much. Oh, that's Susie Sideboard, but we won't go there.
Oh my God. Okay, so entry points in terms of young children that Ian is making up, and the larger point being that yes, I think a lot of the younger audience is definitely getting priced out. The mystery box at Walmart was amazing. I think packs and boxes need to be at retail stores at half the price with no hit, similar to Star Wars.
Even
if it doesn't matter. Marvel annuals are a great entry point, which is what we're coming to as well. I think Upper Deck e-Pack can be part of this too. I think if kids are on the app, you know what I mean, or they are on their tablets or whatever, however young children are, I don't understand it myself, they could go ahead and go to Upper Deck e-Pack and buy a cheaper product, with no hits. See some cards maybe on there. That's possible.
You know what? The reason I'm hesitating is because I think there's a legal age restriction on it in terms of actually buying stuff online, which is where things like the Tops apps get around that quite nicely, because there's a lot of free content on there. So it gets you involved. And
let's get some free content on Upper Deck e-Pack.
Spend money, because I think in a lot of states, and certainly in Europe, you have to be a certain age to be able to. There's like age restrictions, like legal age restrictions that are in law about use of web. Like for Facebook, I think it's 13.
No, of course, no.
So
no,
I'm just thinking.
Credit card, contract agreements.
There's stuff like that, and if you're spending your parents' money and you're suddenly going, oh, let's buy 50 cases,
which is the way to do it,
and your daddy gets his credit card bill, and all of a sudden you're living in the outhouse again.
But he's like a little Ferris Bueller. Yeah, so he's kind of killed it.
But again,
poor Jimmy.
You've got anyway. But you can get but that's what I'm saying. I think the clever thing with some, and Panini do it with their NFL Blitz app. You can play around with that to your heart's content and open free stuff after free stuff and battle within it, and you're not spending a penny.
That is nice.
What they're doing is that the weird thing about the NFL Blitz app, and I can't do it in my head. I just can't do it. But you can pull autographed and costume cards within the app, but it's a digital card.
Topps does that too with Star Wars. It's very weird. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm not a fan.
Anyway, but it's still a hit, and it gets that spark into little Jimmy Jones, and
that's true,
and Wally Wilkinson, and
something to shoot for.
Yeah, and on the My Little Pony version, maybe Sarah Sideboard, but she might also be into the stuff that the boys.
Or Jimmy might be into ponies. God,
can I just say, yesterday I saw my first ever My Little Pony movie.
Isn't it good?
The new one on Netflix, Molly Rose.
It's not bad.
She watched it twice in a row. Like literally.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Even I spent more than half the movie out of my iPhone watching the film. So
see, look at you.
It's and I feel
a brony enriched. On the horizon.
I feel enriched. I wouldn't say I'm an Earth pony. I think I'd like to aspire to be more of a Pegasus. Anyway,
everybody wants to be a Pegasus. Come on, who doesn't want to be a fly pony?
These words are coming out of my mouth. Anyway, so I guess what I'm saying is, there's a way to do that without needing to put because it is, you have to spend to print the cards, to do the contractual arrangements, to get them in the Walmart in the first place.
True.
We know from speaking to Upper Deck, and that's not in their business plan. That's not part of their model. They're not seeking to do it. So, from Marvel Cards' point of view, Topps do that. So, So I guess you could do it like that. But for me, and this is where I differ. I digital cards for me don't move the needle, not a jot.
That's just me.
That's just me.
No, me too. Never.
Kids dig them.
I mean, I think that's what matters, right?
From Rebel Base Card, absolutely digs them. There's a whole crew of guys that kind of literally mine and go through those and actually do spend some credits, I think they're called, once they bought them. But you know, and hats off to you. But I'm very much, you know, I want to have my card. You know, I'm a physical guy. I'm a physical media guy. I always have been. But
well, also too, you have to understand, right? There's a lot of privilege with us, right? We were able to get these cards. A lot of people that I'm talking to now who are coming to the hobby, they can't even find like certain base cards from like Marvel Masterpieces for like 16, 18, or 20.
I have to say, I'm still having trouble getting some base cards from 16. I'm not done on that.
Yeah,
I need
it's tough.
6. I mean, admittedly, they're tier 3, which are one of the toughest. But you know, it's tricksy. But I've noticed because I've been going back to fill out some Black Cat stuff. A lot of the Rittenhouse stuff is pretty tricksy to get.
Everyone's getting Rittenhouse stuff. There's a frenzy.
And you know what? About time.
I agree. That's what I said.
I mean, everyone took Rittenhouse for granted while they were pumping out Marvel set after Marvel set, but my goodness me, it was up.
They did it so right.
They did it so right. The sketches were a knockout.
Numbered. You knew how many each artist did. Yeah. You had incentives. You had archive pieces.
Love it.
This is the best.
Love it. Halcyon days. We didn't know how good we had it until it's gone. But a creepy old guy comes in again. So in terms of entry points,
run Jimmy. Sorry, go ahead.
If you're coming into the hobby and you genuinely want to get into Marvel cards and you don't collect, so we've touched on people who are getting into it who maybe come from other areas of card collecting. We've touched on it from the point of view of little Jimmy Jones, age 9, and his future is clearly digital. What about
imaginary?
And imaginary. Yeah, exactly. So you've got, well, you know, it's a persona, as we call them in marketing. No, but that's what you do in marketing. You look at your customers and you segment them, and then you have a persona for each type of customer. But I'm thinking in terms of it, effectively speaking. Yes, I just talk to imaginary people. The voices in my head. Like a circle in a circle, like a wheel within a wheel. Anyway, so the people who are coming into Marvel cards, who want to get into Marvel cards, who don't already collect cards. So those people, I'd probably direct them to our hobby Cards 101 episodes, because, you know, it's all about, okay, what type of collector do you want to be? So it's a different conversation with those.
I think it is about being a little more creative. And that's where I keep coming to.
Yeah.
When I think about entry points, I think about creativity. Like for me, like being a character collector, there's set collectors, there's insert collectors, there's collectors who collect characters who have beards now. There's characters who collect specific numbers on the back of cards. Like there's a bunch of different types of collections going on. Villains, you know what I mean? Obscure characters.
And as we heard last week, the new person who's just suddenly going after musical instruments on Marvel cards.
Which is perfect because there's a need for that. But I think as a collector in any hobby, because it depends, right? There's people who are investing, flipping, blah, blah, blah. And those people are doing their thing. They know what they're doing, right? But then you have people who are hobbyists who want to enjoy it casually. And enjoying it casually at this point is going to come from a perspective of going to ComC, going to eBay, going to Upper Deck ePack, and eventually find cards cheaper at like a vintage store, antique store type of thing. And that's going to be their avenue. But for the collectors who are looking to amass something, a collection that will somehow reflect them or speak to them or give them some entertainment, right? That right there, though, that circle of people is going to have to be the creative people. They're going to have to think about this in an interesting way. Yeah. Like, you know, Ian and I, we both collect a different character, right? But you and I both know who else likes our characters. And we understand, we're like, okay, I'm not 100% into what they like to do with my character. So I'm going to make sure I'm over on this end, do what I do. And maybe I can get something they want. They got something I want, and we can swap and still benefit each other, but also exist in this world together. And I think that's the trick, right? You have to figure out what specifically do you want out of your collection instead of mindlessly collecting only because it's so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the big issue, right? There can't really be a discovery phase anymore, which hurts me about the hobby. It's not like you can like randomly go get a box cheap, have fun for $50.
Try it out. Yeah.
Try it out, right? There's not really a try it out thing. But that's what all this stuff is. Like, that's what this podcast is, the group, other things on Instagram, YouTube, whatever, is so you can kind of watch other people take the plunge because they're doing it for digital content or whatever. And you can see that experience firsthand without necessarily having to feel that you broke the bank right out of the gate.
Yeah, absolutely. And walk away feeling a bit like, oh, yeah, I didn't. That's the thing. If you're going to drop a bit of money,
step away from that.
Dig the experience. You're not going to do it again. It's the same as if I don't know. If you're going to go and see, it's not. It's less of a thing with bands. But if you're going to go and see, because usually people go and see bands because they've already heard their music, but theatre and musicals is one of those things whereby you definitely don't know it or try it before you buy it. You've got to go and experience it for real. And if you have a bad experience, you're not going to do that again.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Theatre or with that musical or with that actor or whatever it may be, or in that city. And it I guess it's the equivalent of that with and word of mouth as well. Word of mouth does it here. I've said to people, and you always hear word of mouth. Yeah, the things that people remember, they don't remember the 100 times where they had a good experience. They remember the one time when they had a bad experience, and that's the thing, unfortunately, that they often tell their friends about. So,
unfortunately.
So if you do get a bad experience, if you open a box of product and you drop $400 on it, you're not going to do that again.
No.
You go off and try something else. You can't kind of suck it and see. That's a fascinating point. I tell you the other fascinating point with this is that, and I jotted this down while you were talking, is the flip side of that is what is the exit point? And the reason I wrote that down is twofold. First of all, I've massively changed the way I collect in the last 6 months. And I'm now offloading a lot of stuff that I was collecting previously and very passionately and into collecting. But it's not feasible for me to collect that much. I simply don't have the budget for it. And now I've chosen a new path. It's very easy for me to walk away from the sets that I was working on. And there are a lot of them. The stuff that I've chosen to collect, I can just really enjoy rounding out.
I love that. Yes.
And I'm digging the direction that I'm going in with it, and not all of that includes marble cards. There's other stuff that's in there, as we've talked about before, and I'm getting an enormous amount of emotional, spiritual, and physical satisfaction from that. And that probably sounds really smutty, but I'm not intending to make.
No, I love that. I love that. I think it's awesome.
Endorphin hit when you own a card that you're really into, whether it's Marvel or something else. So there's that. But for a lot of people, I've noticed in the group, and it's the frustrating thing about the hobby at the moment is that there are growing pains, because as many new people come in, it turns off as many older collectors who go, nah, that's it, I'm out. Too rich for me now. And, if that's absolutely fine that happens. What I feel sad about is the fact that a lot of collectors say that, and I get it completely, and I kind of feel the same in some aspects, maybe with bitterness or resentment or just sadness that they can't participate anymore because it's gone beyond their price point.
I don't know, and that breaks my heart. That really breaks my heart.
I think it's really sad. Some people have walked away from the hobby as a result, people come and go within the hobby all the time because, tastes change, and my tastes and focus have changed, and I'm going through the change, dear.
The change, dear.
Change. You can actually get pills for that. But other people have completely disappeared from the hobby in the last year for reasons that we simply don't know, because they've simply disappeared and they've disengaged. And there's one person in particular, I'm not going to name this person, but you know who it is because it's someone we were quite close
to. I was just talking to this person.
Really? because this person I haven't had any contact with for over a year, and I've been trying to contact him. I think we're thinking of different people. No, I'm thinking of someone else.
I am so sorry. No, then okay. I guess I don't know who you're talking about.
I'm talking about, but I'll edit that out.
Oh, I've missed. Well, yeah. That breaks my heart. I miss him to death. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and I really miss this person. And someone has managed to reach out and confirm that this person is okay and is fine and is healthy. But for whatever reason, they've simply walked away. Then their social accounts are inactive. They've just gone. And it's
temptation.
But it's losing a friend.
It's bad. But it is losing a friend. That's the thing that hurts me.
I've lost a friend. I've lost someone whose opinion I cherished, whose collection I respected, whose sense of humor was and still is an absolute killer. But he's not in our day to day anymore. And it's sad.
And it's I think what happened to this collector too, and I'm sure it's happening like what Ian's saying with exit plans. It's happening to a lot of collectors. Is that at one point, you get to your collection and you start getting raked over the coals, right? You either start getting cheated, people start holding things over your head. You have certain things, and this is the real crappy thing about collecting in general. When you show people what you have, there always comes a little bit of backlash, and there always comes a little bit, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you have people who are like, well, I know they have that, so now I'm going to grab what they like and make sure that they're going to give me that when I have it. And that happens quite often. And I think that forces people into this exit strategy type of thing. And I think that's what happened to Pankit. I think the temptation was there. I think he was spending a lot of money on buying things that he was excited about, and his collection is amazing. But at the same time,
popular count,
he was going a 10,000 speed limit. You know what I mean? Like he was so fast on everything.
Then Masterpieces 20 dropped, and I think the prices in the market were seen, and I'm out. And also, who knows what else was going on. Anyway,
I'm sure there's personal stuff too.
I will edit out the name of the person that we're talking about, because I don't think it's fair for us to mention his name on air. But anyway, if that person still listens, we love you, we miss you, and
100%.
Well. Anyway, sorry, that went somewhere, but but I think at the moment I would still steer. I'd say, look, if you're coming into the hobby at the moment, just do a little bit of research. Listen to podcasts like this. There's a number of Marvel Cards podcasts now, both on audio and on video. So, browse around. Don't just see all the shiny stuff that people are saying that's costing, thousands of dollars. That is not the majority of cards. Although
it's not.
The value of cards is obviously changing and in flux constantly, as it would be for any other, I was going to say product or commodity. I guess I don't think of cards as a product or commodity. That's because I have an emotional attachment to them. But I guess, their core they are, because, it is something else that people make to sell, to make money. Fundamentally, Marvel wouldn't have started making cards in the 90s if they didn't make them as something to sell to make more money. They're a business.
So
it's true. That's where it comes from at the end of the day. So same with baseball cards. Someone once told me something very interesting, and this is a talking point we're going to come back to on another episode, because there is an episode coming up where I'm going to talk about, and I've got some feedback from other collectors on this, addiction and overspending, and when you go too far. So we are going to talk about that. But someone once said to me, and I always remember this, and I remember it very well because I think it's a banging piece of advice to remember, is you've got to remember that almost everything you're exposed to, and everything that you see, and everything that's made, and everything in stores, and everything online, is made and designed and pitched and constructed and strategized and positioned and propositioned in a way to take money from your pocket and put it into their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have that thought in your mind, then it becomes an easier conversation to have with yourself before you consider opening your wallet.
And I think you should always consider that. I think, and that's what research and all this other stuff that we're doing on this podcast does. Like, look, I love seeing Marvel become a thing, and I love people getting excited about Marvel, but I would never, and I have something that I'm going to be doing shortly, but I never want to be responsible for A, steering this hobby into the ground, or B, steering collectors into the ground. That is never, and I've even slowed down posting my own collection not because it's great. It's just, it's just a collection, but like, I don't want to give people like a FOMO type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it is a real thing. And I see it myself. And even me knowing what I know, I see people posting stuff and I'm like, oh, I really want that. And
I know, it breaks my heart.
It's like, well, yeah, of course you do. But I also want
food in my mouth.
And Florence Pugh to come and read me a good night story. It's not going to happen,
And that cameo video is not going to pay for itself. No. Okay.
You say that, and I think of a guy in a codpiece. Anyway, carry on.
Oh yeah, no, like I don't know. Like for me, look, I'm going to be honest, and Ian knows this because we've spoken about this. But the only reason I'm still in this hobby is because of people like Ian. It's because of people who are my friends in this hobby, and that's true. And he knows that, and we've talked about that. Like, I think a year and a half ago, I would have definitely stopped, not stopped collecting, but I would have kind of like taken myself out of like being so available to people and talking to people, because it's a lot of trash sometimes, and it does get a little heavy, and it becomes a little exhausting. It is exhausting. It's exhausting, but really the people that keep me energized are people like Ian, people who are my close friends on here, Collectors Club. You know what I mean? Like there's, the crew, there's a bunch of people on here who are my friends that I legit think, like, I really feel like are my friends, people I have making plans to go visit. When Ian comes down here, we're going to do a bunch of stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like there are things that I want to do and experience with them and have fun. But I think that's another thing to think about in terms of entry point and just stepping away from the exit a little bit, is that find your crew. You know what I mean? Yeah. Find the group of people who are into this stuff. Like me personally, I tend to flock to character collectors because, and this is honest, there's no competition. And I like that. You know what I mean? Like, I know I'm hanging out with like a Doom collector on Instagram. Doom Card.
I've seen this guy, Doom Card.
You would really like him. He's super nice.
He's in the group as well.
He is.
Jesus, Gene,
yes,
or something like that.
I think it's Jesus. Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. Sorry. You know what I like about it? You know what I like about character collectors is that they are consistently rooting for each other.
Yes, always.
You see what I mean? And it's always about, I'm not saying that other people don't, who are maybe collecting sets and things like that, but it's, I don't know why. Maybe that's...
See, with set collectors, it's harder with set collectors. And it's not, I know a lot of set collectors who I absolutely cherish and love and who have never been anything but nice.
Yes,
ever.
Of course. Yeah, I'm not dissing anyone.
No, at all. But, with set collecting, it is harder because when you start getting to the master set level, there are things that become a little limited and a little harder to get. And, it becomes a little more painful to have to like, you are in some competition with someone. Yeah. Sketch collecting, depending on what level you do it at, that can become very competitive, or it can be very, actually in my experience, sketch collecting is very competitive. Probably the most competitive in my experience.
I have to say sketches, and they are, but it's the one thing I've seen people fall out most about on Facebook.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah, that seems to be the big one.
Because they are, if you want a sketch, only one person can own that sketch, and quite a few people might want it. And that's what it boils down to at the end of the day.
It really does.
So
it really does.
Which is interesting, but but still to this day, we all, as people who collect sketches as part of what we collect, you remember the one that got away. I remember the one that got away.
Always.
Mr. Fuxham remembers the one that got away, and
that was funny.
That got away.
Poor guy.
And actually, funny enough, the person who owned it posted it in group.
No, really?
Pass the baton. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Funny.
I think it's Fenwick, actually.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
Which made me laugh slightly, but no, it's all good. It's all good.
That's hilarious.
I did make me laugh. I heard the episode. I mean, a day or two after. I've been meaning to send it to Alan. Actually, some of the feedback from that episode. Can I just say we had the most amazing feedback from that episode. It was it was legitimately like, yeah, it's the most feedback of any episode we've done.
Oh, Alan's? Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it really was, as well as the vintage.
I mean, no one else has ever done that. I mean, no one else has ever even come close to doing what, and like, there are people out there who have come close to doing what Alan has done, but with sketch cards and certain sets, which is amazing.
Well, Matt,
but in terms of sheer volume, I mean, Matt Fuller, Crazy Town, like, to the beast. But yeah, in terms of set and like getting so much of one particular set, I think what was really nice about that episode too, in terms of talking about collectors, right, and entry point, like, he doesn't dip into anything else. Like, he maybe sprinkles, but like nothing serious. So he only wants Fleer Ultra X-Men. You know what I mean? So there's never a kind of point where he's disappointed by a card because that's the set.
It's all in his wheelhouse. Yeah.
That's exactly it. So I think that's something to think about too when you're coming on an entry point. Like, if you're like, you know what, I just want to do this or I just want to do that, the more you buy of that, you're not going to be disappointed by what you get. You know what I mean? And also here, I know I'm talking forever. Last thing is really thinking about, please do. Like, for me, I always keep the people who collect Silver Surfer at my level close. Like, I consider them friends, like Rick, Jordan, like they're buddies. I consider them friends. Like, we both, sometimes we want stuff and only one of us can have it. That's obvious. That happens. But in all, I do consider them real friends.
I actually don't know many other collectors of my character. I don't think. I know someone who goes after high-end sketches who tends to dip in that character. That's fine. It is what it is. Can't afford those sketches anyway, so But
I feel the same way about certain sketches. I can't get those anyway. So
yeah, exactly. There's no point beating myself up.
At least they're in a good collection.
Yeah. But I kind of, but almost everyone else, for me, it's bizarre for me. I'm the opposite. I'm scorched earth. I'm like, mother.
Well, I feel like that too. I can't say I don't feel like that because that'd be disingenuous. But like, I think what's nice though is that, for me, I had to creatively be like, okay, this is what other people are doing. My taste actually differs. So luckily my taste was different, because if my taste was similar to either one of them, then it'd be a different story. But luckily I was able to be on the outskirts and be like, okay, wait a minute, I know what I like here. But also it's good to exit plan wise, if there's something you're not into as much anymore, you can go to these other people who are interested in your stuff that you have good relationships with and be like, look, I'm offloading, I'm narrowing down. Yeah. Do you want this extra stuff? And they can pick it up if they want to or not want to, and I think that's a good thing too, for entry and exit to coexist. Does that make sense?
No, it makes, I was going to say something smutty, but I won't.
I don't know. I like exactly that idea.
And you know what? And we are going to, this is going to happen in a matter of weeks, because I will have some time without some family commitments for a few days. And we are going to do that Instagram video. We are going to talk about the darker depths of the character collecting. And we're going to talk for as long as we talk.
Yay!
Available afterwards. I mean, I think there is a time limit on those, is there? Is there a time limit on those?
Why don't we just do it on... We can do it on my channel, my YouTube thing, or we can do it for.
Have you got the kit now? Have you paid for the subscription to do the whole sexy streaming live stuff?
I have to with somebody.
Ah, cool. Okay, I thought you did. Yeah. Anyway, the reason being,
I couldn't afford it. It was like $200 something.
I know it is a lot. I'm going to show you something funky, and I remember telling you about this, but I'm determined to show you, because this is the rabbit hole you can go down if you choose. If you choose to be a certain type of collector and you go down a rabbit hole, you can do this. I found out that there is a version, and I don't even know if this is an official set, Spider-Man 2, as in the Tobey Maguire movie from back in the day. Okay, and there was a card, and it was released in Asia. But I don't know. I think it's a type of a trading card game, because
the backs are all the same.
Yeah. But you've got some weird kind of points thing going on in the bottom corner.
It's kind of cool. Yeah, I like it.
It is. They're not in the greatest condition, and I can't find much about them online. Anyway, I bought this in a random lot where the picture was so grainy and fuzzy and goodness knows what. Because it had that.
What?
So it's a little
That's
black cat.
crazy.
Yeah, it's a Terry Dodson black cat. So it's, and so basically it's a Spider-Man 2 movie set, but it's all comic art apart from a couple of promo shots that are from the stuff that was, I've only got like 8
I've had to buy so many lots like this to get like the rando surfer.
Random thing.
It's random. Actually, that's what me and Doom Card did.
Yeah.
We got into the Marvel Legends Showdown cards that come.
Yes,
right.
Now there is one of them that has a cat on it. She's not the main
It was
character.
none in the lot. I would have saved it for you. It wasn't in the lot that I bought.
Yeah, it's one of the square ones. It's one of the square ones.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
Yeah, that's my. Anyway, we'll talk about that on that Instagram.
But but it's deep. It's deep.
It is deep. So yeah, there's an entry point and exit from the rest of your life if you go that far with it.
Yeah.
All right, dear. This has been fun. I've enjoyed having this.
It's been
great. I'm, as ever, as you know, I'm sure you've seen and you've heard us kind of touch upon. There is a lot going on in the hobby right now, and we thank you for making our show a part of your hobby experience. We recognise that there are a lot of places you can go to hear about Marvel cards these days. But as ever, let us know if you're enjoying our podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and on our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, and the Twitter. You're better off out of it, dear. Still a hive of scum and villainy. Find us at the MCC Pod. Also, you can send us emails at the mccpod@gmail.com or leave us voicemail at anchor.fm/MCCP/message. Till next time, people.
Enjoy collecting.
Thanks for listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast. Visuals and tasting notes for each episode can be found on our Facebook page. You can subscribe and leave us a voicemail via our home on anchor.fm/MCCP. We're also on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Please take a second to subscribe, like, and review our show wherever you get your podcasts. Our podcast can be found by Googling at the MCC Pod, which will also find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Our Facebook community is at MCCW, Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide, and MMC, Marvel Masterpieces Collectors. The great music we use is called Rocket Power by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks to the collectors, artists, and creators who support the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. We'll see you next time, and remember, it's a small hobby but a fun one. Make mine Marvel and enjoy collecting.